Hey guys, what's up? I'm Erin and welcome back to the channel. Let me be clear up front. I don't believe that Congress will allow Social Security to collapse without taking action. With that said, this question keeps popping up in the comments. What if they don't? What if Congress does nothing? What if benefits get cut across the board? While unlikely, it's not impossible, and because this concern is so common and so serious, it's worth exploring. What would happen if Social Security benefits are reduced across the board? How big would the cut be? Who would be affected? And what kind of ripple effect would we have on individuals, the economy, and retirement planning as we know it? So let's walk through the timeline, the math, and the real-world consequences so we can be informed and proactive rather than panicked. Social Security isn't just one trust fund. There are two main ones. The Old Age and Survivors Insurance, OASI Trust Fund, which pays retirement and survivor benefits, and the Disability Insurance, DI Trust Fund, which covers disability benefits. According to the 2024 Social Security Trustees Report, the Old Age and Survivors Insurance Fund, the one that pays benefits to retirees, is projected to be exhausted by 2033. And both funds combined, covering retirement and disability benefits, are projected to be depleted by 2034 if no changes are made. At that point, Social Security would no longer have reserves to draw from. It would only be able to pay out benefits from incoming payroll taxes, which would cover just 77% to 83% of scheduled benefits, starting in 2033 or 2034. That means every retiree, every disabled worker, every survivor, every child who relies on Social Security would suddenly experience a cut of up to 23%. And this isn't a small group. 67 million Americans rely on Social Security benefits. For nearly 2 in 5 retirees, Social Security makes up at least 90% of their income. And for more than half of all retirees, it provides at least half of their income. So a 20% cut isn't just an inconvenience. It could be the difference between getting by and falling behind. This would create an immediate income shock for tens of millions of Americans, many of whom would have limited or no other income sources to rely on. So let's say Congress does nothing. Benefits get cut by 23%. Do we stabilize at this new lower level? Unfortunately, no. Here's what would happen next. Once the trust funds are depleted, Social Security becomes solely a pay-as-you-go system, meaning we pay out only what we can collect in payroll taxes and perhaps some interest income. There's no buffer, there's no surplus to fall back on. Now, while this does technically mean the program is sustainable, it does mean it never bounces back to the pre-existing levels unless the law changes. And over time, benefit payouts would continue to grow faster than the incoming payroll taxes due to demographic changes. We have a smaller population in the workforce and longer life expectancies, so inevitably, benefits would continue to decline over time. In the mid-2030s, there would be that initial 20 to 23% cut. By the 2040s, we would have payouts that are only 75 to 80% of scheduled payouts. By 2090, benefit payouts would be 70 to 75% of their current projected amounts. So while that initial cut would be the most jarring, there would be a slow erosion of Social Security benefits over time. No bounce back, no recovery. This is a future where the system never technically goes bankrupt, but the purchasing power and the total dollars received by retirees slowly shrinks every single year. And this doesn't just impact individuals, this affects the entire economy. A 20 to 24% cut to Social Security might sound like a retirement problem, but in reality, it's an economy-wide problem. The ripple effects goes well beyond retirees, touching on families and businesses, public programs, and political institutions. So let's take a moment and walk through these real-world effects. 1. Retirees delay retirement or re-enter the workforce. One of the most immediate impacts might be that retirees don't retire. For those who are already retired, even if they're after the age of 62, maybe they re-enter the workforce. For those who are already working, maybe they delay retirement because they have to find a way to close their income gap. But this isn't without consequences. It increases competition in low-wage jobs like retail, food service, and customer support, making it harder for younger workers to get hired. Older workers in physically demanding roles might face a higher risk of injury or disability, and this would put more pressure on SSDI and Medicare. Public assistance programs would be overwhelmed. If you're already living on the edge and you experience a 20% cut to your benefits or your income, you can't just absorb that shock. You may very well fall through the cracks. And if we have such a large percentage of older Americans currently relying on Social Security for 90% or more of their income, this would push millions of Americans into poverty, triggering a surge in demand for Medicaid, especially long-term care services, SNAP or food stamps, and Section 8 housing assistance. These programs are already under strain, and a surge of newly eligible seniors would drive up costs at the federal, the state, and the local level, and that could easily lead to cuts elsewhere, like education, public safety, and infrastructure. Consumer spending would plummet. In total, a 23% benefit cut to Social Security is projected to remove $300 billion from the U.S. economy, and this is because retirees tend to spend locally on food, clothing, transportation, home repairs. This translates to less foot traffic for small businesses, fewer home upgrades, and declining revenues in retail, travel, and hospitality. Retirement hubs like Florida, Arizona, and the Midwest would be hit incredibly hard. This could lead to layoffs in retail, real estate, and healthcare. There's a macroeconomic ripple effect. What starts as a benefit cut could quickly turn into an economic slowdown. Programs like SNAP actually have a multiplier effect. Every $1 in benefits generates $1.79 to $1.84 in economic activity. So when you cut back benefits, you contract the economy. One study found that cuts to Medicaid and SNAP could result in 1 to 1.2 million job losses, 113 to 154 billion in lost state GDP, and 9 to 12 billion dollars in less tax revenue. Retirement portfolios under pressure. A benefits drop would force retirees to more aggressively turn to and draw from their 401ks or IRAs to fill this income gap. And this would have a triple threat. A faster depletion of saving could mean greater income insecurity later in retirement. This could push retirees into higher tax brackets and force them to face IRMA surcharges on their Medicare premiums, and it would also limit their compound growth potential, again, limiting how much income they might have in later years. So while they may have had a sustainable, slow decumulation plan, it might turn into a high-risk scramble. Inequity would get worse. The impact of Social Security cuts wouldn't be felt the same by everyone. For high-income retirees who potentially have rental income, a pension, investment income to fall back on, Social Security might only be a small portion of this puzzle. So a 20% cut, while frustrating, could be seen as a minor inconvenience. But for millions of Americans who rely on Social Security as their primary or sole source of income, the consequences would be far more severe. A measurable cut to benefits would be seen as a real hardship. It could be missed bills, missed prescriptions, and fewer groceries. For many retirees, they don't have a retirement portfolio to fall back on. They don't have financial margin. This burden wouldn't hit evenly. It would disproportionately hit those who depend on Social Security for survival the hardest. It would widen the wealth gap in retirement, and it would reverse decades of progress we've made in reducing senior poverty. And finally, if Congress lets the trust funds run dry, it could ignite a major political backlash. Younger generations might lose faith in the system, more radical ideas would be more likely to gain traction because we'd simply be in a bit of a crisis mode, and we might see more of an intergenerational divide. Younger voters might feel betrayed, and older voters might feel abandoned. These effects don't happen in isolation. They form a vicious, reinforcing cycle. A single 20% cut to Social Security doesn't just hurt retirees. It hits state budgets, local job markets, local businesses, and national trust. This is about way more than a benefits formula. It's how we exhibit social trust across generations. Now, yes, in this video, we explored a lot of the worst case scenarios, and this isn't traditionally the narrative that I like to lean into. I'm a big believer in seeing a situation as it is, not worse than it is, not better than it is, just truly as it actually is. So I want to repeat what I said at the top of the video. I do believe Congress will act. Social Security is essential, and the populations that depend on it, retirees, disabled workers, and survivors, they vote in high numbers. Lawmakers know that, and that's why I believe that reforms will be made. But if they don't, the pain won't just be felt by retirees. It will ripple through the entire economy. It will affect state and local budgets, local economies, job markets. The effects would be immense. What form that reform takes, whether it's a higher payroll tax, raising the wage cap, increasing the full retirement age, or means testing, is still unknown because, quite frankly, Congress hasn't prioritized this yet. So what can you do? I recommend building multiple streams of income into your retirement plan so you're not solely reliant on Social Security. If you're a decade or less out from claiming Social Security, maybe you calculate a smaller percentage of Social Security into your benefits calculation. Maybe instead of using 100% of what your projected benefit is, you use a lesser percent, maybe 75%. That way you build in a margin of safety. If you're several decades away from retirement, maybe you don't even consider Social Security when you're doing your retirement planning. That way, when you inevitably do get some benefits, it's just a bonus on top of an already solid plan. I actually did an entire video on how you should factor Social Security into your retirement plan based on age, and I'll link it above and down below if you're interested in checking it out. So what do you think is going to happen? Do you think Congress will act? Do you think they won't act? Do you think they'll wait till the 11th hour? Share your thoughts in a comment down below. I post new videos every single week. If you got anything at all out of this one, please give it a like. If you're new here, please consider subscribing. Or if you know of someone who might get something out of this type of content, please consider sharing. I'll see you soon. Bye. Florida, Arizona, the Midwest could be hit exponentially. I wanted to say especially and exponentially all at the same time. Especially. I don't believe that Congress will allow Social Security and the real world So let's say Congress does nothing. I think I hit the mic. Older workers in physically demanding roles may what is wrong with my words today? That could lead to cuts elsewhere, like education, infrastructure, and public safety. Let's do it.